Good morning, everyone. It's Reverend Heidi here at the Manse at Lochbroom, Ullapool Church of Scotland. It is good to see you today. Thank you for tuning in. It is Wednesday, March 3rd, and we continue on our journey towards the cross together. We continue on our Lenten midweek series. And last week we began with Max Lucado's He Chose the Nails. There it is. It's easy to find on Amazon if you need it, but I'm just reading the chapters for you and allowing you just to ponder them and think on them for the week. So last week we did chapter 1, and this week I'm just going to head right into chapter 2 and just read the whole of chapter 2. Now there is 11, I believe it's 11 chapters in this book, and there's not 11 weeks to before we get to Easter, so I will not be able to read each chapter each week, and might cut across to others, but this week I'm reading from chapter 2, from He Chose the Nails, Max Lucado. I understand my church that I was a youth director in and was a teen in Wyckoff, New Jersey, is also doing this series as well for their Lenten series. So I was encouraged by that as well. So here we go. And if you have comments, thoughts, questions that have arisen out of the study, by all means, send me a message, get in touch. I'd love to hear back from you what you think of Max Lucado's study. So this week, chapter 2 is entitled, I Will Bear Your Dark Side, God's Promise in the Soldier's Spit. What would have happened to the beast if the beauty hadn't appeared? I'm going to put my glasses on. Yes, I'm getting older, folks. I need my reading glasses now. Oh, that's better. What would have happened to the beast if the beauty hadn't appeared? You know the story. There was a time when his face was handsome and his palace pleasant. But that was before the curse. Before the shadows fell on the castle of the prince. Before the shadows fell on the heart of the prince. And when the darkness fell, he hid. Secluded in his castle, he was left with glistening snout and curly tusks and in a bad mood. But all that changed when the girl came. I wonder what would have happened to the beast if the beauty hadn't appeared. Better yet, what would have happened if she hadn't cared? Who would have blamed her if she hadn't? He was such a beast. Hairy, drooling, roaring, defying, and she was such a beauty. Stunningly gorgeous. Contagiously kind. If ever two people lived up to their names, didn't the beauty and the beast? Who would have blamed her if she hadn't cared? But she did care. And because the beauty loved the beast became more beautiful himself. The story's familiar, not just because it's a fairy tale, it's familiar because it reminds us of ourselves. There is a beast within each of us. It wasn't always so. There was a time when humanity's face was beautiful and the palace was pleasant. But that was before the curse, before the shadow fell across the Garden of Adam, before the shadow fell across the heart of Adam. And ever since the curse, we've been different, beastly, ugly, defiant, angry. We do things we know we shouldn't do and wonder why we did them. The ugly part of me showed his beastly face the other night. I was driving on a 2-lane road that was about to become a single lane. A woman in a car beside me was in the lane that continued. I was in the one that stopped. I needed to be ahead of her. My schedule was no doubt more important than hers. After all, am I not a man of the cloth? Am I not a courier of compassion, an ambassador of peace? So I floored it. Well, guess what? She did too. And when my lane ended, she was a fender ahead of me. I growled and slowed and let her go ahead. Over her shoulder she gave me a sweet little bye-bye wave. I started to dim my headlights. Then I paused. The sinister part of me said, "Wait a minute. Am I not called to shed light on dark places? Illuminate the shadows?" So I put a little high beam in her rear view mirror. She retaliated by slowing down to a crawl. The woman was mean. She couldn't have cared less if the whole city of San Antonio was late. She was going to go beyond 15 miles per hour. And I wasn't going to take my lights out of her rearview mirror. Like two stubborn monkeys, she kept it slow and I kept it bright. And more unkind thoughts than I dare to confess. After more unkind thoughts than I dare to confess, the road widened and I started to pass. Wouldn't you know it, a red light left the two of us side by side at an intersection. What happens next contains both good news and bad. The good news is she waved at me. The bad news is her wave was not one you'd want to imitate. Moments later, conviction surfaced. Why did I do that? I'm typically a calm guy, but for 15 minutes I was a beast. Only two facts comforted me. One, I don't have a fish symbol on my car. And two, the Apostle Paul had similar struggles. I do not do what I want to do, and I do the things I hate. That's from Romans 7:15. Have you ever felt like saying those words? Have you ever been a beast? If so, you're in good company. Paul isn't the only person in the Bible who wrestled the beast within. Hard to find a page in Scripture where the animal doesn't bare his teeth. King Saul chasing young David with a spear. Shechem raping Dinah, Dinah's brothers, the sons of Jacob, murdering Shechem and his friends. Lot selling out to Sodom and then getting out of Sodom. Herod murdering Bethlehem toddlers. Another Herod murdering Jesus' cousin. If the Bible is called the good book, it's not because its people are. Blood runs as freely through the stories as the ink through the quills that penned them. But the evil of the beast was never so raw as on the day Jesus Christ died. The disciples were first fast asleep and then fast afoot. Herod wanted a show. Pilate wanted out. And the soldiers, they wanted blood. So they scourged Jesus. The legionnaire's whip consisted of leather straps with lead balls on each end. His goal was singular. Beat the accused within an inch of his death and then stop. 39 lashes were allowed but seldom needed. A centurion monitored the prisoner's status. No doubt Jesus was near death when his hands were untied and he slumped to the ground. The whipping was the first deed of the soldiers. The crucifixion was the third. Though his back was ribboned with wounds, the soldiers loaded the crossbeam on Jesus' shoulders and marched him to the place of a skull and executed him. We don't fault the soldiers for these two actions. After all, they were just following orders. But what's hard to understand is what they did in between. Here is Matthew's description. Jesus was beaten with whips and handed over to the soldiers to be crucified. The governor's soldiers took Jesus into the governor's palace, and they all gathered round him. They took off his clothes and put a red robe on him. Using thorny branches, they made a crown, put it on his head, and put a stick in his right hand. Then the soldiers bowed before Jesus and made fun of him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on Jesus. Then they took his stick and began to beat him on the head. After they finished, the soldiers took off the robe and put his own clothes on him again. Then they led him away to be crucified. The soldiers' assignment was simple. Take the Nazarene to the hill and kill him. But they had another idea. They wanted to have some fun first. Strong, rested, armed soldiers encircled an exhausted, nearly dead Galilean carpenter and beat up on him. The scourging was commanded. The crucifixion was ordered. But who would draw pleasure out of spitting on a half-dead man? Spitting isn't intended to hurt the body. It can't. Spitting is intended to degrade the soul. And it does. What were the soldiers doing? Were they not elevating themselves at the expense of another? They felt big by making Jesus Christ look small. Have you ever done that? Now maybe you've never spit on anyone, but have you gossiped or slandered? Have you ever raised your hand in anger or rolled your eyes in arrogance? Have you ever blasted your high beams in someone's rearview mirror? Have you ever made someone feel bad so you would feel good? That's what the soldiers did to Jesus. When you and I do the same, we do it to Jesus too. I assure you, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me. Matthew 25:40. How we treat others is how we treat Jesus. I'm going to repeat that. How we treat others is how we treat Jesus. Oh, Max, I don't like to hear that, you protest. Believe me, I don't like to say it. But we must face the fact that there is something beastly within each and every one of us. Something beastly that makes us do things that may even surprise us. Have you ever surprised yourself? Haven't you ever reflected on an act and wondered what got into me? The Bible has a 3-letter answer for those questions. Sin. There's something bad, beastly within each of us. We are by nature children of wrath, from Ephesians 2:3. It's not that we can't do good. We do. It's just that we can't keep from doing bad. In theological terms, we are totally depraved. Though made in God's image, we have fallen. We're corrupt at the core. The very center of our being is selfish and perverse. David said, I was born a sinner, yes, from the moment my mother conceived me. Could any of us say less? Each one of us was born with a tendency to sin. Depravity is a universal condition. Scripture says it plainly. From Isaiah 53:6, all we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned, every one, to his own way. Jeremiah 17:9, the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? There is none righteous, no, not one. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. We know that one. That's Romans 3:10. Now, some of you will disagree with such strong words. And some of us look around and say, compared to everyone else, I'm a decent person. And a pig might say something similar. He might look at his trough partners and announce, I'm just as clean as everyone else. Compared to humans, however, that pig needs help. Compared to God, we humans need the same. The standard for sinlessness isn't found as the pig troughs of earth, but at the throne of heaven. God himself is the standard. We are beasts. As French essayist Michel de Montaigne, I might say that wrong, Michel de Montaigne, said, there is no man so good who are to submit all his thoughts and actions to the laws would not deserve hanging 10 times in his life. Our deeds are ugly. Our actions are harsh. We don't do what we want to do. We don't like what we do. And what's worse, yes, there is something worse. We can't change. We try. Oh, how we try. But can a leopard change his spots? In the same way, Jerusalem, you cannot change and do good because you're accustomed to doing evil, says Jeremiah 13:23. The apostle agreed with the prophet. The mind that is set on the flesh is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law. Indeed, it cannot. You still disagree with Max when I'm reading to you? Still think the assessment is too harsh? If so, accept this challenge, and I will accept this challenge as well. For the next 20 hours, lead a sinless life. Can we do that? I'm not asking for a perfect decade or a year or even a perfect month, just one perfect day. Can we do it? Can we live without sin for one day? No. How about 1 hour? Could you promise that for the next 60 minutes you will have only pure thoughts and actions? Well, I'm sure up for the challenge. Next 5 minutes? Can you have 5 minutes of worry-free, anger-free, unselfish living? Can you do it? Max says no. He can't do it either. We have a problem. We are sinners and the wages of sin is death, Romans 6:23. We have a problem. We are not holy, and anyone whose life is not holy will never see the Lord, Hebrews 12:14. We have a problem. We are evil, and evil people are paid with punishment, Proverbs 10:16. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm reading this and it's challenging me too. So if you're feeling a bit challenged, you're in good company. We're meant to be challenged by what I'm reading to you today. But what can we do about it? Allow the spirit of the soldiers to symbolize the filth in our hearts, and then observe what Jesus does with our filth. He carries it to the cross. Through the prophet, he said, I do not hide my face from mocking and spitting, Isaiah 50. Mingled with his blood and sweat was the essence of our sin. God could have deemed otherwise. In God's plan, Jesus was offered wine for his throat, so why not a towel for his face? Simon carried the cross of Jesus, but he didn't mop the cheek of Jesus. Angels were a prayer away. Couldn't they have taken the spittle away? They could have. But Jesus never commanded them to. For some reason, the one who chose the nails also chose the saliva. Along with the spear and the sponge of man, he bore the spit of man. Why? Could it be that he sees the beauty within the beast? But here the correlation with beauty and the beast ends. In the fable, the beauty kisses the beast. In the Bible, the beauty does so much more. He becomes the beast so the beast can become the beauty. Jesus changes place with us. We, like Adam, were under a curse. But Jesus changed places with us and put himself under the curse. Galatians 3:13. What if the beauty had not come? What if the beauty had not cared? Then we would have remained the beast. But the beauty did come, and the beauty did care. The sinless one took on the face of a sinner, so that we sinners could take on the face of a saint. That's it for this week. Again, I've just read from Max Lucado. He's chose the nails. Absolutely a challenging one. Many thoughts to ponder and think about. And I'm just going to leave you with that. God bless you each and all, and we will see you next week. Take care.